Mr. Pond Boss, tell me what to do to make all my Lunker Lake dreams come true.
Hello everybody, must be Tuesday. Bob Lusk here, the Pond Boss, going live for about an hour, taking your questions, making comments, and tonight I thought I'd talk about, I was informed that I should speak about summertime pond management. It's really interesting because where we live, usually our Bermuda grass lawn right now is brown and it's green. We've had a lot of rain. Of course, the Farmer's Almanac told us that it was going to be a wet spring, or wet summer this year. So I thought it'd be appropriate since we have well, looky there, there's Tim Stewart checking in all the way from Florida. He gets sunshine every day over there with some rain and partly cloudiness and gale force winds on a few occasions down in South Florida. So as I was thinking about it and talking about it today with the team, it was, why don't we talk about what happens with the pond in the summertime? How does the pond behave in the summertime? Well, we've actually had a respite from summer. It's like 86 degrees outside here. We've had some rain. The temperature's mild, and of course we know here where we live that it's going to end up being in the hundreds again, which that's just the nature of this beast. Hello, Michael Eric. Good to see you from Iowa. And so what I thought I'd do is just kind of take you guys through some of the principles and concepts of the way a pond works. Did you got to go fish? Did you fish in your pond, or did you go fish for some real fish? I'm sorry. I don't know why I said that. It just felt right. Because I know you. And so what I thought, let's go through the principles in what a pond does and how it responds to its circumstances. One thing I think that's real important for everybody to really understand is the inhabitants of a pond, whether it's plants, insects, fish, whatever, amphibians, whatever's living in and around that pond is a direct reflection of what the pond has to offer. So they're actually the consequences. The plants are a consequence. A lot of times we think plants are a symptom or the fish is the end gain. It's really the other way around. Those are the consequences of what your pond has to offer. And one of the examples I use sometimes when I'm giving a speech is I'll say, hey, if I said, let's go somewhere where we got a shot at catching a double-digit bass, where would we go? Well, in Texas, it would be Lake Fork or OHIV. That's the hot spot now. If I said, let's go striper fishing, where would we go? Santee Cooper, Lake Texoma. Those are two well-known striper lakes. If I said, hey, let's go catch some great crappie, reelfoot, a whole bunch of other lakes like that. But the point is each one of those lakes becomes what it is based on what it has to offer. And like Lake Fork, for example, that's a classic example. That lake was built in the early 70s. I think it stocked like in 1976, and to this day it still holds a state record largemouth bass in the state of Texas, 18.18 pounds. Well, that was in 1992, 32 years ago. So once it got past the new lake syndrome, it settled down to become what it is now. And your ponds are going to do the same thing. And it all starts with the water. I mean, I've hammered that to death on this show. As goes the water, so goes what lives in it. As goes the habitat, so goes what responds to it. So if you've got good, healthy, clean, happy water, the fish are going to respond to that. Hello, Justin Ludwig. Tim bought an old boat, and he's been out on some nearby lakes. Okay. I've thought about doing that, but I'll tell you something that you learn when you're my age is you don't have to buy an old boat. You got to find a friend that has an old boat and buy him some gas. That's what I do. I've had a lot of boats. Most of them I tried to use to make a living. All right, I got to finish that water so I can get to sipping my good stuff here in a minute. Hello, Wayne. Man, I hope things are clicking along with you guys over there. Hey, there's Danny Mack. I said hello to Justin Ludwig. Danny Mack, howdy Bob, I'm getting a serious change of water via this rain. Yeah, I bet you have. 5 inches in 3 days. Can I assume the colder rainwater sinks and pushes warmer water over the top? Yep. over the spillway. You know what? Very likely. Tim, I'll get to yours in a minute because that's really going to open up some cans of proverbial worms. So what happens? So let's talk about that. Here's one of those summertime pond management things. When y'all are starting to get me some good stuff. I'm not going to be distracted. Squirrel. So Danny Mac, let's go back to Danny Mac's. The colder rainwater, if it comes in a big enough volume, like not coming necessarily straight down out of the clouds, but if it runs off in there cold, you bet it's going to go down. It's going to shove that warmer water up. Now if it's straight down rain without any runoff, it's probably going to just cool that water down enough to where it will still dilute your minerals and metals, and you'll still get some flushing simply because you have that volume of water. So what happens in part of the summertime pond management thing is where you are, if it's hot, which I don't know anywhere that it doesn't get hot except maybe the far northern tier states, and they get hot. When the water evaporates, it leaves everything behind that isn't water. Calcium carbonate, calcium sulfate, phosphorus, nitrogen, whatever is dissolved in that water stays behind. And it can either be dissolved in the water or it can be absorbed by the water. Oxygen is absorbed by the water and it's dissolved by the water. So those things, the things that are dissolved in the water, the volume can change based on how much water actually evaporates. So I'm kind of talking around this. So let's do it this way. So if you've got 100 parts per million total alkalinity and it's calcium carbonate alkalinity, and half the water evaporates, you've got twice the volume of calcium carbonate. So when you get a rain like what's happening now in San Antonio, down where Danny Mac is, then you're going to end up diluting and changing the volume of those dissolved minerals because the water coming out of the sky has no minerals. That's acid water. Go figure that out. Well, I'll just tell you. Because it's absorbing carbon dioxide as it goes down through the atmosphere, and that changes it from a neutral pH to a slightly acid pH. And so when that happens, then it hits your water, it absorbs what your water offers it, which is going to be things like oxygen and nitrogen and alkalinity and hardness. Hello, Todd Austin. Good to see you. Hey, Todd, you got the right idea. Hashtag Pond Boss Magazine. Click like. Share this video to your timeline. You're eligible for a drawing for a Pond Boss hat. I got one, but I don't know where I put it. Go figure. I didn't think about that either today. I've been traveling. So, hello, John Henry. And so that's what happens with the water. Now, when that changes, so Danny Mac, here's what's getting ready to happen in your pond. The parameters of your water and the variables of your water have just shifted. There'll be a response. Now, that response may be something that you absolutely love, and it may be something that you might want to be paying attention to. When you get that much water coming down onto a hot pond, it's not unusual, especially when you dilute the different minerals and metals that are dissolved in the water, then you can see a shift in pH, and you can see a shift with that water chemistry that completely changes the biology. It can kill the plankton bloom. It can when the plankton bloom dies, you can see the fish piping at the top, suffocating in the morning. So if you've got an aeration system, run it. So the summertime pond management thing, here's the backbone principle. Everything that happens in a pond is triggered by temperature. Everything biological, put it that way. Everything biological is triggered by temperature. If the temperature drops, something's going to happen. The temperature goes up, something else is going to happen. Every species of plant has a window of opportunity based on temperature. Species of fish thrive or are distressed triggered by temperature. They reproduce at a certain temperature. They feed within a certain range of temperatures. They grow within a certain range of temperatures. They're distressed at certain temperatures, high and low. So having an understanding about that will help take you further into your quest to have the best pond on the planet. And the key point there is stable water. As stable as your water is, that's the medium, and that's what the fish are going to respond to, the plants are going to respond to, the dragonfly nymphs are going to respond to, the turtles are going to respond to. If your water is clean and healthy, they're going to thrive in it. So your attention in the summertime should be focused as much on taking care of your water quality as anything else. Now, what do you do about it? Aeration is the key tool that we have in today's world, especially bottom diffused aeration. If you need some counsel on that, go to pondboss.com, click on the resource guide, click on aeration, and we've got a number of advertisers that I have personally gotten to know over the years and vetted, and give some of them a call and talk to them about it, and they'll coach you through it. The second part is understanding the consequences of good water or bad water quality. And here's another cool thing about water quality. It can change at the drop of a temperature. It can change at the drop of a hat temperature. So when that happens, like with Danny Mac, what you're thinking about now is, I've had a temperature change, the temperature's dropped about average daily temperatures probably dropped 15 degrees in the last 4 or 5 days. That's probably a good thing. And then when you get that influx of water, that's probably a good thing, but it's going to change from what was stable to a transitional phase of unstable. And what that means is that be watching for triggers, be watching for plants to die, be watching for fish behavior to change. And if it does, then be ready to respond. And you may need to respond with, of course, we've already said aeration. You may want to respond with amending the water. You may want to respond by getting the water chemistry checked and see. Now, I'm not going to push the alarm button, because 99 times out of 100, when the temperature drops like it has here in Texas, and it has across a different part of the nation as well, a significant part of the nation, and with fresh water, that's almost always a good thing. So that's where I want to start. Tim Stewart, they now recognize Florida bass species, opening up a window for a new world. I know, that's crazy as hell. I mean, George Perry's bass, 22 pounds, 5 ounces, whatever it was, back in 1932, that had to be a Florida bass. But there's no way to prove it. He ate it. And so I think what that does is that, here's my opinion. I think changing those rules now steals the myth of that world record bass. Was it really that big? Did you really catch it by legal means? Was it his friend's scale over there at that little country store out in the middle of somewhere, Georgia? It was a certified meat scale. So, Field and Stream recognized it as a world record, and I'm going to recognize that as a world record. And I think just where things are going now is scientists are beginning to be able to identify more genetic markers of different species of fish, that it's, I don't want to say corrupting, but it's making people dig deeper into what now is being figured out to be different species of largemouth bass. So what they're probably going to figure out is there's some strains of Florida genetics that may in fact be different species. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But I don't really see it as semantics, but I see it as, so now does that mean we're going to have 32 different categories of record largemouth bass, and some of them may be 1.5 pounds? Is that the deal? Records are a big deal, I know, because that sells fishing tackle and all that. But I don't know. We'll see. And the next comment Tim made was maybe one of your pond masters can grow a big one. Well, they have. But what's really funny? I know that right now, I've got 5 guys that I've worked with for a long, long time, at least 5 of them, where I've seen their state record bluegills in the state of Texas. They don't care about that. They don't want the record. They want to be able to know that they're better stewards of their lakes and their ponds and all that. And plus, they don't want to go through the grief of listening to people complain about, well, you fed your fish. Well, you didn't, you know? And so the whole thing about records is really, really interesting. Of course, next spring I might try to go catch a record bass at OHIV. Who knows? Hello, Dave Weber. Let's see, Danny Mac, I'm getting 3-for-1 runoff now that the ground is saturated. 80 degrees this morning, lost. There you go, see? So that's all a good thing. Troy Todd, he knows the deal. Hashtag Pond Boss Magazine. Click like. Share to your timeline. Do bluegills school and eat on the top water early in the morning? Yes, they will. They sure will. Especially if you condition them with fish food. The thing about bluegills is, you know, here's some facts about bluegills. Bluegills are carnivores. They're predator fish limited by their mouth size. You know, when you got a mouth that's about as big around as the head of a pencil or a pen, you know, that's a big bluegill mouth right there. But it can't eat big things. You know, it's kind of got to be satisfied with small things, which means insects, tiny fish, little fathead minnows, whatever it is. You know, so when there's a hatch, and most hatches in ponds occur overnight and early in the morning, so that's when like mayfly larvae are coming up, or damselfly larvae are coming up, or they can go up and suck in a bunch of daphnia as they rise to the surface early in the morning. So, yeah, they'll eat on the top. They'll eat on the top, especially if you feed them. They'll eat on the top whenever you feed them. They'll eat on the top at 1:30 in the morning if you want to stay up and watch them. Danny Mac, controlling aerators on air temperature. My temperature never got over 84.8 at 3 feet. That's pretty darn good, because this time of year, in a situation like yours, Danny Mac, I would expect your water temperature, if you aerated 24/7, I would expect your air temperature to hit, your water temperature, if you aerated the whole time, I bet you'd be knocking on the door of 90 on a typical day. Justin Ludwig, air temperature was 59 here this morning. Well, congratulations. Ours was 69 this morning, and I'm in North Texas. So, Justin, I forgot where you are, but 59 sounds pretty good. We've got out there we have a screened-in back porch that's pretty cool, which that's a throwback to my youth. We had a porch on the Brazos River back then, and I remember going to sleep at night, listening to the whippoorwills. They put me to sleep. And then I'd wake up to birds chirping in the morning about the time the sun started coming up, and I did that last night. And except I woke up by an owl hooting just about 5:30 this morning, which was time to wake up anyway. Joel, Clinton, Louisiana. Good to see you guys. Stephen Martine, John Harson, Dave Weber. When I only had a Zebco D-Lyre scale, I caught some heavy bass. Now those dang digital scales, the fish I catch are, you know what? I know how that works. Those D-Lyres, man, those were classics. Somewhere I've still got one or two of those, but I have no idea where it is. So, John Harson, do anything about Titan bass? You know what? Yeah, I do. I've learned a little bit. I'll tell you about that here in a minute. Let me scroll through and make sure. Jeremy Day is tagging himself. I might do that. Is there any way to get notices on Facebook when you go live? I don't know how that works. I'm pretty sure there is a way to get a notice. So if somebody can chime in and tell Jeremy how to do that, because I don't know, because I don't do it. There's not anything on Facebook I want to see. What's wrong with you people? Okay, I'm going to come back to John Harson here in a minute. Michael Eric picking on me for, yeah, I know. You know, to each his own. You know, just when you're catching 2-pound bluegills and they're whining about their skinny 6-inch bluegills, tell them to shut up. No, we don't say shut up. I got in trouble for that the other day from my wife. Oh, dude, 59 in Oklahoma City. Oh, I remember now. That's right. Jeremy Day got 42 greater Canada geese, not Canadian, hanging them up on. Any major concerns? Yes, there are concerns. An old timer told me that every time a Canada goose eats a pound, it poops 2 pounds. So they do leave a lot of waste behind. And if you're feeding them, don't feed them. And if you insist on it because somebody makes you feed them way away from the pond. I would encourage 42 Greater Canada, and I don't remember how big. Oh, Jeremy Day. Yeah, I do remember how big your pond is. I would encourage them to go away. I would encourage them to go away. I really would. Let's see here. I'm going to go back here now. John Harson. Okay, I got a call. Okay, so I've called the Titan Bass people 3 times, emailed them twice, left messages, no return phone calls. So finally, a good friend of mine, Big O, dear friend, was telling me he'd been talking to him, and one of them is one of his running buddies. So I had to ask him, just tell the guy to call me. Well, it took a month, but the guy finally called me, and we had a 45-minute long conversation. So here's the thing about Titan Bass. There's a billionaire hedge fund guy who loves fish, and he wants to spend some of that money on digging deeper into the genetics and the markers of largemouth bass. And the basic premise is on the biggest of the best, do they have genetic markers that are different from other fish that are not quite as big? So they've been working with a lab out west somewhere, and it's a proprietary secret they don't want anybody knowing, which I don't blame them. I'd be the same way. And it's to figure out are there any genetic markers in these bass that are 13 pounds and bigger, 15 pounds and bigger, that are different from those fish that are under 13 pounds or under 10 pounds. So what are the markers? So up until the Titan Bass people started working, there were about 7 to 10 markers that could be identified accurately. Now they're up to 17 markers. And so what they've done is they've used some genetic research that's parallel to what's been done in the beef cattle industry and in the deer industry for a long time. And now they're digging down into it to figure it out. Now, they haven't been in business long enough to prove if what they're finding out makes a difference in a pond or a lake. So their premise now is we can take your existing lake, identify your genetic markers, and then see if the fish that we have some additional markers that would enhance your gene pool. So that's pretty much the gist of their business model right now. And so what they do is for a fee, it's, I don't know, email me if you're interested in this and I'll connect the dots with you. But it's a fee like $1,200, $1,500 or something. They'll take samples from, which is fin clips, basically from 30 of your fish, and identify the gene pool of your fish, compare that to theirs, and see if some of their fish would add positive genetics to your fishery. So that's really where they are now. Or if you got a brand new pond and you want to add some fish to it, you can do that. Or if you just want to add some fish, to your gene pool, you can do it. So what I've appreciated about the conversation I had is that they're using some pretty sophisticated science that hasn't really been dug into because it didn't pay. And in the private sector, if it doesn't pay, people won't do it. Well, now you got a guy with a deep pocket that's philanthropic enough that he wants to do some things to help enhance the industry. So that's what they're doing there. Okay, I'm going to put 100 bass this fall in my 2-acre lake you recommended here in Indiana. Thinking about local bass, F1, Tiger, or Titans. Here's the thing, John. In Indiana, if you took deer, white-tailed deer from South Texas and hauled them to Indiana, they'd probably die because you have this thing called winter. If a South Texas deer guy got some of your deer from Indiana and brought them to South Texas, they'd probably die. even though all those deer are genetically superior. The moral of the story is that I bet you if you were to get in touch with the Titan bass folks, that they would tell you don't bring these because they are Florida genetic fish. And there are strains of those Florida genetic fish that have markers that the bigger fish have that the smaller Floridas don't have. So Florida strain largemouth bass coming to Indiana won't work. But it'd be worth the conversation. So I would either email them or give them a call and hope that they'll return their call better than they did mine. But I'm talking to a sales guy now. They always return their call. So I'm going to tell you, my 45 years worth of doing this for a living, my gut is local bass. That's my gut. Now, I'm going to tell you this. I've seen northern strain largemouth bass knock on the door of 10 pounds. Now, I've not personally handled a 10-pound northern strain bass, but I've had some that I've helped raise that were pellet trained. There's kind of the catch that knocked on the door a little over 9. And that's pretty damn big for a northern strain bass. But another thing you need to do is find out what's legal. Some states won't allow any bass other than certain genetic strains to be introduced, which that's very, very important for the natural resources of that, endemic species of fish that live in those watersheds. So you wouldn't want to bring, like out here in this Brazos River, there's Harris mud crabs. Well, they're pretty cool. Red ear sunfish will eat them. I don't think I've seen a red ear sunfish in this river yet. But they displace all the native species of crawfish. So you've got to be real, real picky about the genetics. So I love the question you're asking, and my recommendation to you is to, first of all, find out what's legal, and then keep doing some due diligence, and I'm thinking local strain largemouth bass are going to be your best bet. I spent 4 minutes giving you 30 seconds worth of intel. Danny Mac, bluegills of all sizes attack and tear apart bass throw pellets. Big pellet, badass fish. There you go. You know what? Also, going to Jeremy Day's question, there's a machine called Away with Geese. It's a laser deal that rotates. So you set it up at eye level with those geese. So if your geese are overnighting on your pond, you can set that. Look up Away with Geese. I'm pretty sure they're still in the Pond Boss resource guide. That's a pretty useful tool. As much as we love wildlife, I was down by the river the other day and I saw 5 wild turkeys swim across the river. It got a little deeper than they could wade. The damn thing swam. And they swam across the river. It was so fun to watch because I've never seen geese swim. Surprised they didn't sink, but they did. And the water couldn't have been more than 18 inches deep where they were swimming, but they flapped their wings, kicked their little feet, got across, and went and made it. And I don't even know why I told you that other than it's cool. But look at Away with Geese, and the geese will respond to that. As much as where I was going is as much as we love wildlife, there's places it belongs and places it doesn't. And Canada geese that are natives, they're actually a nuisance. So, Drew Botman from South Cackalack, Pond Boss Rock. Yeah, man, I'm a rocker. Thanks, Drew. And I always need to say thank you for compliments. My mama told me that. Bourbon. Joel, let's have a talk. Question, my bigger bluegill are getting out of hand. What? Raise your hand if you love big bluegill. Every hand in the room just went up, dude. I'm not going to make fun of you. Well, I might. No, I'm not going to do that. My bigger bluegill are getting out of hand. Trophy Bass Lake, do I need to cull the bluegill 5 to 9 inches? They don't hit the spawning bed, just stay under the feeder. Well, dude, they're pretty lazy. I mean, if you give them the chance and you're going to set your feeder to go off 4 or 5 times a day, I'd be there too. And if I wasn't trying to keep losing weight, I'd just camp out under your feeder. Okay, so here's the question. The question: my bigger bluegill are getting out of hand. Trophy bass lake. Do I need to call the bluegill 5 to 9 inches long? The way you decide that is: are they reproducing, and are you seeing young of the year bluegills? If you're seeing bluegills, here's the way to look at that. If you've got 5 or 6 size classes of bluegills, then you're fine. But if you think that those 5 to 9 inch bluegills are out competing younger bluegills for space, then there's nothing wrong with culling some bluegills. I'm a fan of culling bluegills. I'm a fan of rolling them in Louisiana fish fry, which is my go-to, dude. Probably yours too. In 350-degree peanut oil. Leave the tail on. Eat that first because it's crispy. So there's nothing wrong with culling. Do you need to cull bluegills? I think you need to cull bluegills if you've only got 2 or 3 size classes of bluegills. If your bluegill size classes are 5 to 9 and 9 to 12 inches, cull bluegills. But if you've got 1 to 3s, 3 to 5s, 5 to 7s, 7 to 9s, if you want to cull a few that are in that 7 to 9 inch size class, go for it. Nothing wrong with that. Because what will happen is if you do cull some of those bluegill in the 5 to 9 inch size class, the younger ones are going to fill that gap anyway. So if your trophy bass lake, here's the other angle of that. If you've got enough trophy bass, you're not going to have that many 5 to 9 inch bluegills, because if you've got trophy bass that are, say, 3 to 6 pounds, they're going to be eating those 5-inch bluegills. So be aware of that as well, because you want to have the biggest bluegills you can have to feed those. There's Ian. Okay, so John has seen the top. Yeah, they have them for sale, but dude, I think. Oh wait, you know what, John? You know what? What I read on Titans. You know what? Okay, you know what? You just struck a nerve with me. They are working with some northern strain largemouth bass. My bad. So be sure when you talk to them about it that they know where you are. So you know what? My bad. It was a long, detailed conversation, lasted 45 minutes. He did tell me that they have some strains of northern largemouth bass where they're looking at the genetic markers of those fish and selecting for those markers as well. So yeah, okay, I was wrong. I'm standing corrected. I don't say that very often. Well, I do to my wife. Okay, and Ian, you're welcome, buddy. Hey, there's Ron Ardwan. Ron, we still need to talk, man. I don't know what, just my whole world has been just fluttering in the wind. It's just great life. Okay, let's see here. Danny Mac, that deal to check your gene pool sounds like a cheap electrofishing survey. Have lazy bass and refuse to eat the bluegills over 2 inches. So I'm looking at culling bluegills or finding takers. Show me how to reliably throw a cast net for a couple hundred. You know what, dude? You could set some traps. In your situation, it'll be easy to set some traps. Justin Ludwig, S up on the Palm Moss Forum. That is Scott Schillig, and he might be a good resource. He goes to Arkansas quite a bit, but if you're going to deal with Scott, you need to drill down into the genetics question, because John, that's where you're going, is you really, really are dialing into the genetics, and most of the sources that Scott buys from don't dig into that. Josh, dude, are you still in Colorado? So good to see you, man. Yep. Danny Mac, cheap party lasers throw nets of laser beams over a wide area. What? Cheap party lasers throw nets of laser beams. You know what? That's got to be coming from a nuclear physicist. Oh wait, you are. How many bones in a turkey neck? Hey, you pulled that on me last week, man. What's the bourbon? This is Woodford Reserve today, Josh. Woodford. Hey, there's Bruce Candello. Bruce and Josh, y'all are good buddies. Josh used to live in Lincoln, Nebraska, where Bruce is hanging out. But this is Woodford Reserve, and I've got one great big ice cube in it, and just sipping it. Introduced to me by our dear, dear friend, Fred Bigman, probably 8 or 10 years ago. I didn't put a drop of alcohol in my body till I was almost 50. And I swear, sometimes after that point, 2 or 3 times, I did stuff like you people did when you were 18. Yep, Josh, the important questions. Bourbon. How long does the average hybrid stripped bass live? Michael, you and I communicate a lot. Hybrid what? Oh, wait, I know what you're talking about. I'm going to tell you 10 to 12 years, typically, and I've seen them get to be 12 or 13 pounds. I've heard rumors that they've gotten bigger, but I'm kind of in the world of reality, and my reality is 10 to 12 pounds is normal, 10 to 12 years is normal. Hybrid stripped bass. Why don't you Google that? Tell me what you come back with. I've been fishing for those 3-pounders in my boat to catch up to the bluegill and walking cat. Dude, you know what? I don't know how in the world you keep up with the walking catfish. Tim Stewart is a stud. He's young, he's vibrant, he's well educated, but the biggest thing about Tim is he's inquisitive and thoughtful and curious, and he's a worker bee. I mean, he'll climb in a truck full of honeybees and haul them from South Florida to freaking California to pollinate almond trees. At the same time, while he's making that cross-country run, he's thinking about how in the world he's going to keep tilapia and apple snails out of his ponds. Mark Dyer, if you're trying to kill off cattails to replace them with more beneficial vegetation like bulrush or arrowhead, if you kill them in the fall, can you plant the new bulbs right away next year, or do you need to wait and see what other cattails could come up from seed and spray them first and plant early summer instead? I would be a fan of going ahead and killing them, but do it now. Don't wait to kill them in the fall, because in the fall, cattails are dormant. So they really start going dormant, depending on what part of the planet, they start going dormant around the middle to latter part of August. So I'd start taking them out now, because when you treat them, like say you treat them with glyphosate, for example, which you may be a fan of that, you may not, but it works. But you gotta use the right volume of the right quantity of herbicide with the right surfactant, where it can break through the waxy outer coating of the leaf, translocate to the tuber, and kill it in the tuber. So if you want to plant some new bulbs next year, that's good. But if you have cattails that come up, which I'll tell you this, 9 times out of 10, when you kill cattails that have been growing for 6 or 7 years, some of them are going to come back. Some of them are not going to die. So if you want to wait, that could be a good strategy. If you want to go ahead and plant some bulbs, and then if you want to selectively kill your cattails as they start coming up, you can do that. You just got to be really, really careful how you do it. So I don't know that I really answered that question, but I'll be 70 next year, so I'm looking at it different than I would have 35 years ago. I'd be in a hurry. I don't know how many more years I got left, and I'd really want to see those arrowhead bulrushes grow. I'll tell you something else you can do. You can spray those cattails, and then in the springtime, you can take a turning fork and get into a couple of areas and spend 30 minutes and dig up, see what's left of those cattail tubers before you plant your other ones. And if you've got cattail tubers that are still vibrant and crispy, then don't do it. So let's see here. You know what? Let's do a commercial. Hey, Ron, are you coming to the Institute of Higher Pondology? I think it's October 24, 25, 26, the Bob Lusk Institute of Higher Pondology. We've got room for 15 people. I think I've got 6 signed up. It's really, really fun. Sarah Parvin's even talking about coming. Now, she hasn't said whether she's coming or not, but she wants to. But what we do is we spend basically 2.5 days as a unit of folks, and we learn everything. We go through all the principles of pond management. We do some electrofishing surveys. We do mark recapture studies. We lay out hatchery ponds. We're going to go to the West Ranch, Bobby West Ranch. His son Jacob will be there. Great people. 15-acre lake. We're spending time on the lake identifying plants, working on the fish, learning how to sample, learning how to collect fish. We go through classroom stuff, hands-on, water chemistry. There's a guy that'll bring a weed cutter boat. So we got some pretty cool stuff going on, and if you guys are interested in that, just send me an email. Just send an email to info@pondboss. We'll send you a brochure. It's $1,500. It's not cheap, but it's all in. It's housing, food, spending time with me, which you can ask Ron if I'm cool. Nobody my age is cool. Shut up. But we do have a lot of fun. And also, hey, Texas Hunter Feeders. I love Texas Hunter Feeders. They're my go-to. Those guys, not only do they have the best products out there, they've got the best customer service. As a matter of fact, Wayne Lancaster, he's watching the show tonight, if he's still on with us. His feeder got flooded about a month ago, and I mean completely covered up with water. And he was actually, Josie was the one that was distressed over it. I don't know if Wayne was or not. Wayne's pretty laid back. But Josie was pretty upset about it. She let me know about it, and I said, hey, you know what? When the water goes back down, clean that nasty feed out that got soaked, and then let it dry out, clean it out really good, and then test it and see if it works. If it doesn't, I guarantee you Texas Hunter will send a new timer, a new motor, or whatever it needs to be, and they'll have some empathy with them. And Wayne cleaned it up, and the feeder worked. Even the timer worked. Everything worked. So it's to me, that's a testimony of real world good stuff. But I also know this because I sent him an email. I said, hey, Cody, here's the situation. He says, man, after the water goes down, time to clean it out. Here's what to do. Let him know. And if there was an issue, they would have taken care of it. I know they would have. Purina Mills, I love their feeds. I love the process they go through to create the feeds. I think some of their marketing decisions are a little dubious. But my go-to is MVP. I love MVP. Multi-variable particle. 9 different pellet sizes. Feeds bluegills anywhere from an inch long and up. That's a really, really good food. Let's see here. John is asking, what food source can I buy to start in the lake for my red ear, and where can I purchase it? There are no feeds that red ear will eat unless you want to do something. And you know what, John? You strike me as a guy that's pretty detail-oriented and pretty passionate about it. If you wanted to buy some krill and breed those, you could probably, what are the brine shrimp? You could do some things like that. And maybe get your red ear started on that if you can get them, coax them up close to the dock. Now, of course, bluegill are going to wear those krill out as well. Krill are real fishy smelling. So you might be able to take some krill, mash them up, mix them with some fish oil, like what omega-3s are made out of. Blend that in with some fish food, and you might be able to coax some red ears. But there are no feeds on the market where you can take wild red ear sunfish and train them to eat. Now, if you could go collect a bunch of snails and pitch them out there, which nobody on the planet is going to do, that's kind of the way that works. But I don't know of any feed. Now, I know Bruce Candello has trained red ears, but he did it in recirculating systems in his basement right there in Roca, Nebraska. Ron, are you still watching The Bachelor every week? No. My wife does, and I avoid it at all costs. Did you get a rose? Ron, if you did not get a rose, please say your goodbyes and hang up the phone now. Ron's talking to Tim. E.H. Taylor is my new favorite. Dude, I don't even know what that is. You need to message me and tell me. Tim Stewart got a load of bees in the yard. Just got back from Wisconsin cranberry bogs, taking the truck driver catfishing tomorrow morning. There you go. That's why you have an old boat. My friend Nedoc Cody, I think is his name. I forget. Once asked me what my all-time most disappointing fishing experience was, and answered that once I was spooled by a striper, but autocorrect changed it to spoiled by a stripper. Was it a hybrid stripper? Yeah, Josh, I'll be 70 next March. E.H. Taylor, I don't even know what that one is. Old Forester. I love Woodford, and I love Clyde Mays in an old-fashioned. Hold up, Bob, you're 70? No, I'm not. I will be next March. I know. I wear it well, right? Tell me I do. My wife says I do, and she's older than me. I didn't say that out loud. Speaking of cattails, John says, we dug our lake on 52 acres. Not a cattail on it. Now the lake is done. Cattails are showing up. Well, there you go. I skipped Joby. Hey, Joby. Looking to get a head start on attacking the curly leaf pondweed in my ponds. Where are you? I got a feeling you're either in the Midwest or northern tier. Let me tell you what happens when curly leaf pondweed getting a head start. You're probably behind a little bit on that. But what happens with curly leaf pondweed, my experience has been, once the water temperature hits the upper 70s, lower 80s, it starts to cull itself. That may not be the case where you are, but the first time I saw it was in upstate New York, and I was fascinated just to study it because I thought we were going to have to treat it, and you got to get an act of Congress. Kamala Harris would have to sign a freaking permit up there to get it to do it, and that ain't going to happen. But it started dying back and going dormant when the water temperature got hot, and other plants started coming in, taking its place. And I've seen that in the Midwest as well. So let's see, you got down here. Let me see. Tell me where you are, Joby. Okay, John, cattails are showing up. It's fascinating to me that I promise you, I have been involved in designing and overseeing construction and watching ponds being built probably, I don't know, 7,000 to 10,000 of them over 45 years. I am fascinated at the seed bank. I bet you there's a seed bank in the Sahara Desert and there's cattails in it. The only thing it doesn't have is this little thing called water. So the other thing about cattails is they blow in the wind. When those cattail heads, they call them catkins. There you go. When those things dry up, they'll explode, and those seeds will blow with the wind, and hell, they'll go miles sometimes, depending on the kind of wind you got. Okay, so Joby's got a total of 6 ponds, 12 acres combined. Any thoughts? When and how should I? Okay, so what I'm going to tell you, Joby, is let me know where you are. Let me see. Did you do that yet? No, not yet. Let's see here. Okay, so Joby, depends on the water temperature and where you are. Those two things. If you're going to try to treat aquatic plants in the middle of summer, exercise caution. Don't. So here's my answer to that. The more aquatic plant mass you have, the more conservatively you need to treat it. Don't take it all out at once. Take it out in pieces. Take it out in sections. If you've got, say, if the pond's 30% covered, take out 1/3 of it now, wait 2 weeks, get another third of it, and then see what happens. Because you may not need to take out the other third because it may start going dormant and with enough drift from the herbicide that you choose. So here's my answer to kind of get you on the next road. Go to Aquaplant. Google Aquaplant. That's a good place to start. That's at Texas A&M University. That's the best website. There's one the University of Florida has. Dr. Wes Neal at Mississippi State just put out a book that's free. You can email him. And if you'll email me at info@pondboss.com, I'll forward it to Wes if you want that book. But go to Aquaplant and just Google Aquaplant Texas A&M, and then also make sure that you've got curly leaf pondweed. Since you mentioned it, I'm presuming that's what you've got. Mark Dyer, great advice, thanks. Any suggestions on easy to start submerged vegetation to put in front of that bulrush? Tried to transplant American pondweed a few times, but I tell you what, I tell you my philosophy about planting submerged aquatic plants. I don't do it. I wait to see what nature offers. And then once I see what nature's got popping up, then I decide if I like it. And if I like it, we'll leave it. If not, then we'll replace it. Which I probably not replaced plants, but maybe 25 times in 45 years of doing this stuff. But where I'm going is if you don't have the right nutrition, don't have the right water clarity or sunlight penetration, if you don't have the right temperature, you can plant seeds, you can plant tubers, you can plant plants. That doesn't mean they're always going to come up. On submerged plants. Now, arrowhead and bog plants, that's a different deal. Those are usually pretty responsive because the tubers have got muscle. You know, they've got the nutrients they need. They've got the stuff they need to be able to get a start, where other plants like American pondweed maybe don't. Hello, Peyton Igo. Tim Stewart's got an endorsement. The Bob Lusk Institute of Higher Pondology is worth the trip. Peyton's been to that one. He knows. Ron and Tim are coming. Worth every penny. I tell you what, it really is worth every penny. I mean, we don't make a whole lot of money, but it's really fun. Danny Mac, Tim should be hosting a reality show. Danny Mac's been to the Institute of Higher Pondology. We got several guys here. Okay, let's see here. Damn BVO. What's that, Michael? Eric? I don't know what BV is. You're probably going to embarrass me here in a minute. Dave Weber from Northwest Missouri. Local coffee shop experts are claiming that having only one bass food source, bluegill, will cause your largemouth bass to get bored with the same old menu and not eat enough and grow slower. Do I really need more than one item on the buffet? Factor fiction. I just scrolled up too far. Let me scroll back down, make sure I don't miss something. Bluegill, I'm going to answer it like this. Bluegill are the backbone of the food chain. I am a big fan of diversifying the food chain, not just because for that assumption, the experts at the coffee shop, that's not why. If bluegill reproduced enough, often enough, and could do it by themselves, I'd say, yeah, they're not going to get bored with that. A bass doesn't get bored. Why? Is it like watching TV? Bass don't know that. They're eating machines, reproducing machines, and they defend their territory. That's really what they do. So if there's food, they're going to eat it. The reason to diversify the food chain is to fill the gaps between bluegill spawns. So that's why we use, like in the South, we use threadfin shad. In trophy bass ponds, I use gizzard shad. Now, don't run out there and stock a bunch of gizzard shad unless we talk about it. We need to talk about it before you do that. Golden shiners can be a pretty good one. Red ear sunfish are an insurance policy. You know, in the northern tier states, there's some different kinds of minnows and pumpkin seeds and fish like that can help fill the gaps in between bluegill spawns. So those fish are not going to get, they know what bored means. It's, am I hungry or not? If they're hungry, they're going to go try to eat. And if there's enough bluegill to fit the buffet and to fill the different trays there at Luby's, bass extravaganza, they're going to eat. Troy Todd, is it true that Purina Aquamax largemouth bass pellets is no longer being made? That's true, and I'm pissed about it. That's why I didn't give them my wholehearted endorsement. They took that, okay, I'm an ambassador for Purina Mills, which means that I should have a little say-so. Well, they didn't talk to me about it. They didn't think about it. They just decided that they had too many SKUs, and they took out the SKUs that where the sales were too low. So I've had 5 people tell me that they would buy a pallet of that fish food. I've emailed that to the decision makers at Purina Mills, and I followed up on the email, and I followed up again, and it's being taken under advisement, which what that means is we're busy with horses and cattle and show animals and chickens, and we're not going to talk about fish for a while. So, Doug Cusick almost forgot. So did I. Don't remember. Hey, Troy Lopez. Buddy, good to see you, man. Thanks for the compliment. Joby in Ohio. Okay, so Joby, I got a feeling that your curly leaf pondweed is going to meet its own demise before long. Now, if you want to treat it, you can, but you need to. I don't know the laws in Ohio. I've not studied laws, but in those more, I mean, I know that the rural parts of Ohio are red state, but the big cities are not. I don't know what your rules are, but I'd be looking at that, and I'd study the Aquaplant website. John, I would not stock any, I would not go buy any snails, but freshwater shrimp could be an option, but I'd be looking at maybe brine shrimp, I'd be looking at krill. That's what I'd be looking at. Troy, it's so good to talk to you, buddy. Hey, there's Scott Schilling. Somebody must have texted that guy, because he never watches this show. Scott is Essop on the Pond Boss Forum. He has feed train, ritter, sunfish in a cage in the pond that he bought from Hopper's Hatchery using optimal food. So there's the shameless plug for optimal fish food. But I can't imagine that Hopper Stevens feed trained those fish. Did you or did they? Yep. So there's Scott. Scott can tell you. So, Joby, that's another idea. If you had some red ear sunfish in a cage and you wanted to try to feed train them, you might be able to do that. Oh, Cincinnati, talk to Jones. They're right around the corner from you. Yep, Mark Wyman, Western New York, curly pondweed isn't all that bad unless your pond stays spring-fed cold all summer. Yeah, that's right. There you go. All right, so here's Bruce coming in. Holy cow, everybody from Pond Boss is checking in tonight. That's cool. Scott, send him a message and let him know. Curly control, I've used Aquathol on a bunch of the different pondweeds over time. My answer is precipitated based on, this is the end of July. If you'd asked me this question in April, you'd have gotten a different answer. But in July, one thing you got to watch out for when you're treating plants in July, what Bruce is telling us right here with his comments is right on the money. Here's what you got to watch out for. If the plants mature and they begin to change color and they're getting ready to go dormant, the susceptibility to herbicide is seriously diminished. So they've got to be actively growing in order to take up that herbicide, which is Aquathol K, which that's a good one to use on that, but be real careful that you don't overdo it and kill too much too quick. It's not that the herbicide is going to cause problems. It's going to be when you kill those plants and they start to decay, like this Woodford is in my stomach right now, then they're going to cause an oxygen depletion, which means I'm probably going to burp in a minute. But if I do that, my wife will get on me, although she's not watching. Mark Wyman, I feel your pain, brother. Have to find someone who's licensed to use it in New York. They want a small fortune. Yep. I'm enjoying the great coverings. You know what? And that's part of the management thing I'm talking about. Yep, John, you're welcome. Let's see. Scott says curly leaf is also to control in October by using 10 parts per billion dose of fluoridone. I'm going to stand by my comment about curly leaf pondweed. Okay, curly leaf pondweed reproduces, I know, by two ways. One is by seed, and one is by tubers, or by tubers. So if it's not actively growing, and you put fluoridone in it, fluoridone, the way it works is it's got to contact the plant for 40 to 90 days. The plant absorbs it. And then what it does is the fluoridone stops the plant's ability to photosynthesize. So in essence, it starves it to death. It doesn't kill it, it causes it to die of starvation. And so what happens then, but the plant's got to be actively growing. So before I did it, Scott knows what he's doing. I would want to be sure that plant can take it up. Okay, so Mark, doesn't fluoridone wipe out? No, fluoridone is selective. there's some algae it won't kill. It does take out a lot of different plants, and it's on the label. If you want to look up Floridome, go to Aquaplant, and it's going to tell you about Floridome. Tom Davis from Ohio, Alexander Cohen. Hey, Bob, does cyanobacteria have a negative effect on fish? Any chance the plankton eaters like threadfins eat it? No. So cyanobacteria can have a negative effect on fish depending on which species it is. Cyanobacteria is blue-green algae, and depending on the species and the volume of it, that's what impacts the fishery. So if you get a certain volume of it, or a certain parts per million, or a certain mass, or a certain cell count, and those cells die, then they release a toxin that can be toxic to everything from elk to your fish. But there's a significant number of cyanobacteria species that are not toxic to anything, and even the toxic ones got to be at a certain concentration before they are. Are there any chance plankton eaters like threadfins eat? No, they won't. They won't eat that. Okay, so Scott is speaking from a word of authority here about the application rate, 10 parts per million. It affects only curly leaf and milfoil. There you go. Oh, Lord, I'm busted. My wife is saying, why are you drinking on Facebook? Honey, if you watched it, I do that almost every Monday. She's sitting out by the pool with grandkids. So, thanks for busting me on Facebook, honey. I love you very much. See you in a couple of days. Ron, Optimal has a largemouth food called ham throw. Okay, there you go. Okay, there you go. I'll email you some pictures. Okay, perfect. We're watching. Oh, Lord. Grandkids are watching. They should be in the pool 2 minutes ago. Okay, let's see. Hey, John's got, hey, it's apple juice. Or corn juice. I don't know what it is. Oh, look at these guys taking up for me. Got to quench his voice because he doesn't stop talking for an entire hour. That's an absolute truth. And, it's 7:30. Good gosh, I got to go. Okay. Oh, Debbie just busted me again, whatever. And somebody's laughing at it. Okay, let's see. Bruce, best way to feed trade red ears in a cage is to use moistened feed. They train quickly and moisten. There you go. There's your answer, everybody. So, after May, it's okay. So let's see. Scott's educating me about this. That's how I kill the curly leaf. If we can't treat it from February to May, after May, it's pointless because it's setting its turbans. Actually, that's turions. Oh, there it is. Turions sprout in August and slowly grow in winter, even under that. Well, there you go. So there's how to kill the curly leaf pondweed in northern tier states. So, hey, guys, it is 7:33. That hour flew by. And I'm so glad to see all my longtime friends come on here because I don't get to see you guys nearly enough. And we've got to get together, guys. I want to figure out how to get all the Pond Boss moderators down here at some point. I keep talking about it, but I haven't done it. So, you know what? Hey, Pond Boss Magazine, $35 a year, cheaper than a Friday night date, and it lasts a year. I forgot to do that at 7 o'clock. So, here we are. We're going to wrap it up. I don't know where I'll be next Tuesday, but I'm pretty sure I'll be hanging out with you. So until next Tuesday, adios for now.